So if we can all just bring our attention inward, give ourselves this time to fully arrive, soft eyes, connecting with your breath. Nothing to do, nowhere to go, just breathing. Feel your chair beneath you supporting you. Your rib cage expanding sideways, making plenty of room for the breath. Nothing to do, nowhere to go. Simply being. Remembering that you have everything you need inside you. And today, we're going to explore the big mystery, the big transformation of death. And I thought we're going to do things slightly different this time, but starting with breath, starting with coming inside, is exactly the kind of resources that you need when you face the big D. Also acknowledging that this is our last Big Love Bistro monthly, and I look forward to a new transformation. With every ending, there's a new beginning. And so if you would like, you can keep your eyes in a soft focus, or you can gently bring yourself back. I'm going to just have a little short talk before we go into a long one meditation today. Usually I do two, but today we're going to do one long one, and then we'll have a discussion after. So, the subject of death. In preparing for this, it's really affected my dreams, how I've been feeling toward ending this, and just in general, seeing the transience of life, how the one thing that we can count on is change. Everything changes. And with each change, there's loss and there's a new beginning. So it doesn't always come easy, but the more that we can relax into it, the better it is. In researching this, that's kind of what I came to was, the Buddhists look at it one way, the Christians another, the Taoists, everybody has a slightly different take on it, but there are a few things that seem to be universal. And one is this experience of going into light. And two is this experience of freedom. I discovered my new favorite Lama. David's been listening to me listen to her. Her name is Lama Luna, and she is a kick. And so she's talking about her maxim from death is chin up, tits out, whee! And she calls it the big adventure. And the key being, let it be an adventure. Just trust it. You have everything you need. We've done this before. We have the guidance we need. Light is there. I don't know if you've ever heard of anybody experience death without mentioning the light. It seems to be universal. What is kind of basically fucked up about death is our culture's attitude toward it. There's just such a taboo around it. We don't talk about it. In preparing this, I thought, you know what, how deep do I go with it? And then I thought, you know what, hell with it. I'm going to go for the gusto. I'm going to do an actual meditation practice for the process of dying, the dissolution of the body and the mind. because why not know what we're doing, right? We're all going to die. And so little of us really know what the process is like. I've been around 3 deaths, and I wish I would have known more. I felt like it would have been helpful to know more. So in this practice, the reason I think for learning about death more is threefold. One is to help other people through it. If you're with a loved one and they're dying, you kind of know what's going on. And, the death rattle, for example, they talk about when the breathing gets very uneven, it's scary. But if you know that's coming and you know what it is, it's less scary. You can just roll with it. The other thing is to know what's going on in yourself so that you aren't going into death frightened. In some traditions, like the Buddhist tradition, how you are in your death is a big deal. It kind of translates into what your next lifetime is. So if you go into it kicking and screaming and scared, that's going to affect your next lifetime. Now, Taoists are kind of like, doesn't really matter. You're in the Tao always. You die, you're back in the Tao. It's all good. It's all natural. We're all just part of everything. We're all nature. Kind of like that too. But, I don't know how many of us have died and really have that great of a memory of it that we know. So looking at several traditions, and what I did is I kind of combined bits of each one. So I looked at Joan Halifax, who's a Zen Lama in Santa Fe, and she has a hospice program. So she's worked with tons of hospice workers. She's been around death for years and years and years. And she collaborated with the Dalai Lama in the meditation that we're going to use. I also brought in Lama Luna, and she's just a kick, and she lived in a cave for like 6 years and has really done a lot of inner work. And then Robert Thurman, who's a Buddhist scholar who specifically focused on the Tibetan Book of the Dead. And most of us have heard of that. That's kind of the Bible of death. So that's where this practice has come from. Now, for some of you, it might be pretty intense. And so I'm going to encourage you to take care of yourself in this. If it gets to be too much, you can tune me out. You can turn off the volume. You can focus on one part of the process and stick with that. You can focus on just light. You can focus just on your breath. Whatever you need to take care of yourself, and feel free to come on in and out. I always feel that. You're the expert on you, and you know what you need. So just feel free to come in and out as you please, as it feels right. You want to make sure that you do stay awake. So if you feel yourself nodding out, just open your eyes more, sit up straighter, be more aware of your breath. And anyway, I think that's about it. Enjoy the ride. Let whatever arises come up, feelings, fear, joy, loss, all of it. If you like, you can also bring this into your own life. What in your life is dying? What are you leaving? What is about to be birthed? You can use this on many different levels. Life is always multi-layered. So you can use it on the literal, we're practicing what it's like to die, or the metaphoric, this has died in me, and this is, I don't know what's going to be reborn. Is often the case. So any questions, comments, anything before we go into the practice? All right, so if you all can mute yourself and get comfortable. Sitting where your back is supported. If you're going to be lying down, it's preferable if you lie on your right side. That's according to the Tibetan Book of Dead. And you want your head unobstructed. Our spirit leaves out our crown. So we want to have plenty of room above you. So bringing your attention to a soft focus, tuning into your body, into your breath. And let your mind become still. Let the breath become even and smooth. Feel your belly rising and falling like waves of the ocean. And focusing your attention on abiding in your breath. Allowing whatever to come up to come up. If it's resistance or concern, grief, joy, boredom, or your story, just notice it, give it space, and then return to your breath. This particular practice involves the dissolution of not only the elements of our mind, but also the elements of our body: earth, water, fire, and air, just like we've worked with in the past. And then we release them all into space. In releasing the elements of our identity that compose what we know as I, we allow ourselves to dissolve our form, our feelings, our perceptions, our mental formations, our conditioning, and ultimately let go. Letting go of what we know as our consciousness. This practice is about awakening as the mental processes dissolve and as the physical processes of the body go through the transformation that we know as death. Concentrate on your breath and let your body relax. Be in the breathing. Mark the out-breath with a slight increase of attention, an increase of commitment to the breath of releasing, letting go. Imagine that this is an actual description of your dying. Notice what arises as you do this practice. Let each of the feelings and sensations come up for you, pass through your mind and body, be noticed, and then released. This practice is about awakening to your essential spaciousness. Phase 1, the dissolution of earth into water and the unbinding of the body. Imagine that you are in your bed at home. You are dying. You are aware that you are dying. Family and friends are around you. You are barely aware of them. You are somewhat agitated, and you accept this state of mind. Your body is thin and weak. You cannot get up. You cannot quite sit up. You cannot pick up anything. You do not have, nor do you need, the energy to do anything but simply be here. You are releasing this flesh and bone, this nerve and marrow. You are letting go as you die. Feel your body becoming heavy, very heavy. This is a heaviness that is dense and deep, going right to the core of your body. As you become weaker, your body feels less defined. Your arms and legs feel not quite part of you. It seems as if your legs could slip right off your hip bone, your arms off your shoulders. Experience your body dissolving, melting. There is no distinction between the bed and you. It's as if you are sinking into water. With this sinking feeling comes a sense of even greater weakness and tiredness. The boundary between your body and space is beginning to dissolve. Your senses are less attuned to the outside world. Your sight is dim and dark. It is difficult to open and close your eyes. Your sensory grasp on the world is loosening. The outside world is slipping away. You're still breathing. Involuntary muscles like heart and respiration are still going. But it's the voluntary muscles that you lose your control over, so you can no longer change position. You feel heavy. When this is happening, don't fight it. Don't resist it. Just relax your body. You might want to keep your eyes closed because it's more comfortable. You sink deeper and deeper into an undifferentiated mental state. Whatever visions you see appear like shimmering blue mirages. This is the dissolution of body and of our relationship to the physical world. These feelings of heaviness, drowsiness, being weighed down, the loss of definition and control, and our inability to see the form world around us. You might experience a sound. It might sound like an earthquake, like rocks rubbing. It's a sound which you don't exactly hear with your eardrums, but you feel with your body. When that happens, you know that your earth element is dissolving. Be present as this body is dying. The body is not you. This is the dissolution of the element of earth as it sinks into water. Phase 2. The dissolution of the water element into fire and the unbinding of feelings. Feel your body dissolving. As you are letting go, your hearing is diminished, and you sink into an undifferentiated state of mind. You have now lost control of the fluids in your body. Your generative fluids have dried up. Your skin is clammy. As fluids leave the body becomes parched. Your mouth is drawn, your lips are chapped. Your throat is scratchy and clogged. Your eyes feel sandy and sting. You are not passing much urine. You have a thirst that no amount of water can quench. Moisture is leaving your body, never to return. Let go fully into this dryness. Release the fluid element of your body, the element of water and of feeling, of emotion. Your mind is hazy and you are somewhat irritable. You have ceased to experience pain, pleasure, or even indifference. You do not have feelings related to happiness or unhappiness. You are numb and do not differentiate between physical and mental impressions. Those kinds of distinctions are not important to you now. When you look behind your eyes, you see a vision of swirling smoke. See this haziness that dissolves all differences. The water element is now dissolving into fire. This is the end of your responsiveness to phenomena. As you let go, wake up in this vision of swirling smoke. Phase 3, the dissolution of the fire element into air and the unbinding of perceptions. As the fire element of your body begins to dissolve into air, your body feels cool. Heat withdraws from your feet and hands into the body's core. Your breath is cold as it passes through your mouth and nose. Your mouth, nose, and eyes dry out even more. Your ability to perceive is further diminished. The fire element is dissolving into the element of air. You cannot smell anything. You cannot drink or swallow. The in-breath is less strong and the out-breath is longer. Your mental perception alternates between lucidity and confusion. You are still aware at this point as the fire element dissolves, but as the air element dissolves, you lose your ability to think. You cannot remember the names of your loved ones, and you cannot recognize those around you. You've lost any sense of purpose in your life and have no interest in what is going on around you. You may feel as if you're being consumed in a blaze of fire that rises into space. By this time, you should know what you're doing because you've done it before, and relax into it. Don't fight it. Go forward. As the air element dissolves, there are sensations of confusion, as your thinking is no longer linear. It's just not working. Embrace the confusion. Let go into this fire and see it as your mind releasing itself. Or you may see a vision of sparks, almost like fireflies. Wake up in this vision of shimmering sparks behind your eyes. Let yourself discern the truth of dying. This is the dissolution of the fire element into air and the unbinding of your ability to perceive. Phase 4, the dissolution of the air element into space and the unbinding of mental formations. You now have given up any sense of volition. There is nowhere to go, nothing to do. You are at last free of those pressures. Your in-breath is short. Your out-breath is long. The mind is no longer aware of the outside world at all. As the element of air is dissolved, you are having visions. Your visions may be jewel-like and filled with insight. These visions can relate to who you are or who you were and how you have lived your life. You may be seeing your family or your ancestors in a peaceful setting. You may be seeing beautiful people, saints, or friends welcoming you. You may be reliving pleasant experiences from your past. Or you may have hellish visions. If you have hurt others, those whom you have injured may appear to you. Difficult and dreadful moments of your life may arise. You may see people with whom you have had negative interactions. You may even cry out in fear. Do not identify with these visions. Simply let them be and pass through. The element of air is dissolving. You do not have to do anything. Just practice this breath of release and let go of everything. Your tongue is thick and heavy. Its root is blue. You have lost your taste for life as you lose the sense of taste. You cannot feel texture or body sensations. Your body is barely moving. The last energy of your body is withdrawing now to your body's core. Whatever heat left in your body now resides in the area of your heart. The in-breath is short, a mere sip of air. The out-breath is long and uneven. Sometimes it sounds like a rattle. Your eyes, gazing into emptiness, look upward. No intellect is present. Your body lifts slightly to meet the breath, which does not enter. Your mental functions cease altogether. Your consciousness has dissolved into space. The perception from the outside is that you are dead. Breathing has stopped. Brain function has stopped. The body feels no sensation. Know this empty state. Know this stillness and surrender to it. Experience it You know this from years of meditation. Let yourself be in it. This is the element of air dissolving into space. Simply become space. At the moment of physical death, you might see a small flickering flame like a candle. This candle flame expands and expands, and you feel your awareness expanding. It is no longer in a point, but is now a vast, wide realm. You enter into this state of luminance, into the infinite moonlit sky. White light everywhere. And you as infinite, losing your sense of embodiment completely. Then this infinite white moonlit sky turns into an infinite sunlit sky. More reddish orange, more hot and radiant. And you are that vastness of the sun. You feel more balanced in space. You resist retracting back into your body or even trying to. When that stabilizes, you then move deeper from the realm of radiance of sunlit sky into the realm of immanence. Like a dark lit sky. Everything is dark, and you are very, very close to complete unawareness. But still lucidly aware in the brilliant blackness. Phase 5, immanence into transparency. Finally, you come to the clear light. Everything becomes transparent. There is no sense of being in absolute space apart from things. Everything is interconnected. You are everything. Everything is you. Everything is transparent like glass and completely mutually interdependent. You feel very, very calm and peaceful. Extremely alert and aware in a multidimensional, multi-perspectival way. This is the restful state in the universe. The most restorative, energizing, and liberating. You are bliss and clarity. Now, the clear light of presence is liberated, the light of your awareness. This is your ultimate great perfection. This is the actual moment of death. letting yourself marinate in whatever came up for you. Allowing it, embracing it. In your own time, you may begin to transition back to your room, to the sound of my voice, to each other. I don't know about you, but for me, doing this practice was intense and kind of sobering. And at the same time, I feel like I want to do this periodically. I want to get this memory in my body so that when the time comes, I have some sense of things. Like my body knows it, my mind knows it. Now, we do know it, but when fear gets in there, we can try to run away from it. We can try to latch on to something. You know, I was reading kind of everybody's suggestions about death, and they were saying, go for the intensity. Don't hide. Don't go to the edges and kind of, be soft. Go for it. This is the time to go for it. And relax into it, finding that trusting place that you have the wisdom within you. They always say, follow the light. It's kind of true. And, you can make it simple, like focus on one image. Some person will focus on the image of Jesus or white light or the open sky. That can help, a single pointed focus to just calm you. The breath, the single pointed focus. Maybe this practice showed you where the points were that were most frightening. I mean, I have a thing about bodily functions. So for me, some of the bodily function stuff was like, yikes. And yet, really? Like, who cares? But, that's what came up for me too. It's like, let go of that, Jane. And I've been with people as they died. And, it can be, I've been in some that were kind of horrendous, screaming, moaning, and some that were just beautiful and just magical, peaceful. And so, runs the gamut. We don't really know. But I feel that the more educated we are about it, the more we practice letting go and being in space, the easier it'll be, most likely. You can't say that for sure. Like, I was with one person who had Alzheimer's. And so when she was dying, her consciousness was, who knows, right? But eventually she made it out, after days of kind of confusion. But I think the other two that I was with were much more peaceful and fast. So again, I'm sure you've all had experiences. And, on that note, I would love to just open the floor to anyone sharing their own experience in this or in life with death. So I'll hand that over to you.
For me, the idea of death and that meditation of death brought up a feeling of just massive relief. I welcome it. But where I go from there is I really would like some of that relief before I die. the release of the struggle that life feels like it is sometimes, a lot of times. So and yeah, so I would like some relief before then.
Yeah.
I know
When-
that sounds totally sad. It doesn't feel that heavy, but I death is not the thing for me. Living my full life is the thing that I'm afraid that I can't get to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that makes perfect sense, you know? I mean, I think death is pretty easy compared to living life,
Yeah.
you know? And I think sometimes when we do bring in this letting go process, it can help us in life. I remember doing a shamanic journey once, and the message to me was think of death every day. And I thought, well, that's cheery. But what it was, you know, like you said, bringing that into life, that letting go, that uh, release. And leaning into what the joys are in life, too, I believe. Thank you, Laura.
I had a similar experience to Laura in that I like what you said at the beginning. It's not just the experience of leaving this world, but you can use this meditation as a or some form as a practice in dealing with the death and birth cycles that we all go through during life. So I found myself, I'm dealing with one particular death in my life right now. Um, I found myself applying the meditation and feeling into that and seeing what the process of letting go could bring me from a joy standpoint in the experience of this life. So again, building on what Laura said, I thank you for sharing, Laura. That's what I was navigating also, was trying to embrace the death and birth process in this life through the process of seeing the joy of letting go. And I got there sometimes, and sometimes I didn't get there, but I could see how the practice of it then becomes so critical, like you said, daily or regularly.
Wow. Laura, I just do want to say that I totally heard you. And I feel and have felt what you're feeling. And sometimes I wonder if my neutrality around death is like maybe I should want to live more, or but I'm very neutral. I'm just after you talked, David, just made the thought came up. Wow, I wonder if this is all just about release, just all about letting fucking go of anything that I'm hanging on to.
Yeah.
And it just kind of felt like a light bulb. So thank you, David. So, and thank you all for being here.
I think what you said about letting go seems so true. Someone I know did a series of ketamine treatments, and she said to me, well, it's getting ready for death. And I was like, and she said, it's like being on an out of control bus driving around and you have no idea where it's going at any time. and just this letting go, because it's, if any of you've done hallucinogens, there's an out of controlness about it that in order to enjoy the trip, you simply have to let go. And I don't know, letting go seems to be the big lesson of life that I find.
I was struck by when we came to that final moment of death, of this is the death moment, and here you are, and you've released everything, that it was still me, you know, still me. And that's kind of what we all hope for, I think. And there's a book, the Afterlife of Billy Fingers, that many of you may have
Oh,
read.
yeah.
Where in that book, he talks about the process of becoming the universe. And I felt that was sort of like the little trip we took, was into becoming the universe. And I think that can be a powerful practice, just in letting ourselves let go of the daily, grind and everything that's going on around us, and to be able to go into this practice of becoming the universe and reaching that place is really powerful. So thank you so much for that.
That's a wonderful way of putting it. Becoming the universe. I love that.
Yeah. Thanks, Marty.
Well, that was totally profound, Jane. So moving.
Mhm.
I took it very literally, kind of unlike David and Laura. I really went there, and it brought me to that I had been at my parents' death, and sort of somehow intuitively imagining, you're hoping that's what people are going through, even though it can look bad. It's really actually okay on the inside. You're kind of removed or detached, but that was so beautifully written. Who wrote that? I was just so curious.
I combined, it's mostly Joan Halifax, and she worked with the Dalai Lama on it, and one other guy who I didn't know. And then also I put in some Robert Thurman and some Lama Luna. Each had little bits I liked, and so I kind of combined them. But if anybody wants some of these transcripts, I can send them to you.
I want the whole thing, please. That was amazing. That was really wow. And I love what Marty said about it's that becoming the universe. And then finally, I feel like I now can see what Laura and David meant. And like, do we have to really wait till we die to finally relax? Like, to be able to see it daily and have those little deaths where we surrender from all this bullshit.
Yeah.
That just kind of gets to us. So it was so profound. And Jane, you did such a magnificent job of reading that. Your voice was just beautiful. So thank you.
Thank you.
I saw a lot of that physical process that you were describing in my mother. It took her a long time to make her exit. And it really was described well in terms of how the body, you're just kind of stepping back from the body. And I think, Jane, you've heard my story about my mother. Intermittently, like once a day, she was always in that same position. She'd open one eye and she'd go, still here, not dead. And then she'd drop back off again. So you could tell she was working on getting out of here, but couldn't quite find the way. But that was interesting. As I was going through it, it really made a lot of sense from having watched it from the outside with my mother.
Yeah. Yeah. I wanted to mention the sudden death experience. If someone dies suddenly, whether it's, heart attack, car accident, suicide, whatever it is, what I've been reading about that is this whole process is kind of a little bit condensed, but it also can extend into the bardo. And the bardo is considered the 40 days after we die. And this is when the process is still continuing. And maybe the soul is reincarnated. According to Buddhists, they're reincarnated into a human form, most likely, or these different layers, the God realm, the animal realm, blah, blah, blah. According to Taoists, you just go back into the pool of everything. But there's a period of time, and I don't know about you, but after someone dies, you can usually feel their spirit more clearly, and it kind of gradually dissolves a little bit as they dissolve more from, I think it's their kind of like connections to, not connections, denseness of matter releases. It dissolves more and more and more the further they go out. Is that anybody else's experience?
Jane, I kind of wanted to go back and touch in on that piece of coming to a point where that release about death leads to more life. And I know years ago I had a scenario where I did think that I was going to die, and wrestled with that. And what I came away with that was something I've carried with me since then for about 10 years or so, is that it doesn't really matter how long I live. If I die, I die, and becoming more okay with that. And it sort of informed me this, it's how I live that is more valuable to me. So, I mean, that sounds it's pretty simple, but what came about that was the release of that trying so hard and hanging on to things so much and saying it's going to come.
Yeah.
And so now it's more of the focus of, just how do I live and not worry about that, which maybe some people don't worry about that, but I was young enough at the time. I probably was still at the age most people worry about if they think they're going to die.
Mm-hmm.
That was one of the pieces that I was kind of going back into, as talking about, that death piece informing us of how to really live.
Yeah. Yep. It gives us a contrast. Hugely.
And also help to release some of that fear,
Yeah.
or probably maybe most of it.
Yeah. I remember when my mom was dying, she was a nurse and she was very kind of matter of fact about bodily functions and all the things that I'm not necessarily. And she kept saying, it's so natural, and just, she was glowing. She was just so happy. She put on red lipstick and a red shirt, and it was just like, 94, and it was such a wonderful experience. And at some point, we all let go of that fear and we go. Or the hanging on, I should say. We let go of the hanging on and we go.
I had a pretty interesting experience with the meditation. I decided to see what would happen, how would I feel if I died right now at my age now. And what came up was there was no fear, but there was a tremendous sense of sadness and loneliness, and the realization that, oh, this is how my life so far looks like to me, and I don't want to just leave that legacy, just the loneliness and sadness. And then as we went through the different stages, that let go, and that didn't become, it stopped becoming, it stopped being as important. But I did go through that process of really feeling the sadness and the loneliness and then letting go of it. And then when I was somewhere else on another level, just looking at this lifetime as sad. And I think that's the contrast that I needed to see. It's the realization that I don't want to continue that way. So maybe that was my letting go of sadness and loneliness.
Interesting.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. That's interesting, to bring up the thought of loneliness, because, even if you have people around you, as we know from this meditation experience, at some point you are alone. We come in the world alone, we go out alone. And so there is a loneliness about it until we melt into the universe. And then we're part of everything. I wanted to add one thing as I was researching this and listening to Lama Luna. How often when people are dying, they don't know they're dying. And as we are with them, we do them a great service to let them know that they're dying. Because in our medical world, doctors oftentimes don't tell them. Like I read that David Bowie didn't know he was dying until like really close to his death. His doctor didn't tell him, which seems unconscionable to me, robbing him of the experience of knowing what's going on. But I can kind of see that because there's also a tremendous denial of death in our culture. And a willingness to talk about it is also so great.
Yeah, I was gonna say that I appreciate just openly talking about this subject and having kind of an unflinching way of looking at it, the unpleasant side as well as the hopefully kind of pleasant side of it, because it is a topic that it's on my mind more than I'd like, but I think it's also something I try to avoid thinking about at the same time. So it's taking away it's always going to be mysterious, I guess, in a certain way, but also it doesn't have to be so mysterious that, you don't, you can kind of become more familiar with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, the interesting thing for me is, as I listen to what we're talking about now and what Andrew said and Jane said about our aversion, the medical profession society aversion to talk about ultimate death. So there must be an extrapolation about our aversion to talk about deaths that occur in our everyday life. And maybe that's part of what we struggle with in just journeying through life. So the little deaths through life, this is stuff that I think Laura and I were talking about at the beginning, and the letting go. So if we're not able to talk about the big death, my guess is, I have to sit with this. My guess is that we haven't been trained, are not open to, haven't exercised muscles around the little deaths that we have to deal with all day, the changes in our lives, a change in job, change in relationship, a change, on and on, all the changes that are can be so challenging. So, I don't think we've been particularly schooled or mentored in the little deaths.
Well said.
Definitely well said. Thank you.
And such a great way to practice it. I mean, to recognize those little deaths and be with them rather than stay positive.
Yeah. Put on a smile.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very true, isn't it? And I think of the aging process as, I recognize I can't hike for 4 hours like I used to. I just, you lose certain physical functions. And how often do we talk about that? And acknowledge that. And I saw it with my parents. They both lived to old age, and kind of their lives got smaller and smaller and smaller. And yet they were troopers in the sense they would find something. But then when it was time to go, boy, were they ready.
Mhm.
I think there's something very interesting about people who are ready to die and people who are not. My husband's mother is 101 and has no intention of letting go at all. And personally, if I were 101, I'd feel like I was being tortured by staying alive. Even at my age, I'm going, dying wouldn't be such a bad thing. It's not suffering so much. I watched my mom die and she struggled. She didn't want to, she wanted to, but she didn't want to. And I could see her struggling. She died in a day. One day she was talking to me and talking about her beach houses and the seagulls. And the next day I went to see her and she was half gone. And then she took the rest of the day and passed. And I could kind of see her working through all the issues and all the little letting go. I could see her struggle. She didn't talk about it. She was past talking. She was where her mouth dried up and she was where her secretions stopped. And it just happened in a day. It was just amazing that she could actually let go. And she didn't even want to talk about it. And I didn't know exactly what a dying person looked like. So I got her nurse and got her doctor. And I said, I think she's dying. Don't you think so? I mean, they had all prepped her for going to a nursing home and eating by mouth and all the things in the hospital that they do to prep somebody to leave. And here she was dying instead. And after I watched her die, I just go, hey, dying's not so bad. It's the struggle that we have in our lives that's really hard. And dying is kind of okay. I talked to a bunch of healers about, what if there's this huge catastrophe and, do we help people die or do we want to die or do we want to go through it and live? Most of the healers said, oh, I'm fine with dying. And I felt that's the way I felt too. And it's like, instead of like a big war zone, that's like, I'll just leave. And that made me think about the name of the band, the Grateful Dead. Yeah, I would be a Grateful Dead. I was like, yeah, I'd be gratefully dead. And I don't know if that's a weird way to look at it or not, but after this meditation, I felt profound peace. Just like, oh, why struggle? And it's like, okay. And then there's this quote that I keep hearing. It's from the Bible and it's John something. And he says, I die daily. And what he meant was that he's meditating. And in his meditation, it's a little death. So every day we can practice dying and be ready for it. Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. But I really appreciate this meditation and discussion. Thank you.
Good points. It's so interesting how some people hang on, and you wonder, like at 101, like, what are you hanging on to? And how is it for all the people around you?
It's not fun. Really.
Yeah.
But she's there. I'm not ready to go. She has a friend that we had dinner with. Her friend says, I've had a lovely life and I'm ready to go anytime. And it's like, she said, the Lord can take me tonight and I'll be fine with it. And his mom goes, oh no, not happening. I don't know. It's interesting.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Well, we are running out of time, and thank you so much for going on this journey today and for the last year. I have been so fortunate to be with all of you. I've just loved it, and I look forward to the next chapter and my life and in all of yours. And hopefully we'll stay in contact. You're all very dear to me, and I wish you all well.
I think you're ending a little quick here. Yes,
Good try.
try, honey, wife, partner, whatever. I thought this was an amazing Big Love Bistro experience. I think the last year has been amazing. So I want to celebrate the death of this and the birth that would follow, and just thank you. I know what you brought each time, and I saw you do the reading, the research, and the work. And it showed up in extraordinary ways that were amazingly beneficial. So I wasn't going to let you go that quickly.
As Sin knows, I usually kind of duck out on these kinds
Oh, you're right, right.
It's been wonderful, Jane. I mean, for me, not being in Boulder, great to see everybody's faces and feel the connection. And every one of the meditations has been just so relaxing to me. Without it being too formal, it has always had that ability to take me really deep, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, good. Thank you. Relaxing is key, isn't it?
It is.
Relaxing and letting go.
It is.
Yeah. Well, I've just loved it. And yeah, I feel kind of sad. And yet there's some relief and joy at the next possibility. It's all, isn't it amazing how multi-leveled life is? And yet, like Cindy was saying, in another way, things are pretty simple. They're both and. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank
So,
you, your heart,
yeah.
for thank you so much, sweetheart, for blessing my life. So I appreciate that.
And likewise, blessing mine. Yeah. And anyone that would like any of these transcripts, I'll send you the links. Just either text or probably email me. That's where I have everything. I'd be more organized that way. Yeah. Once again, much love to all of you. Thank you again for your participation, your love and support. Yeah.
Thank you, Jane.
Oh, I don't think.
Thank you so much. It's been an incredible refuge for me to have these sessions over the last year.
Oh, yay.
Thank you, Jane. Excited to see what you do next.
Might be nothing.
Yay.
Hey, anything's possible. All right, everybody. Love you much.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.